All right, guys, hello and welcome. We're very honored to have special guest Alexandra Overgaag of Thrilled Labs. We're going to be asking Alexandra a very important question, which is it likely that Bitcoin could go to 600K by the end of 2025, as predicted by the crypto analyst Plan B? How probable is it for Bitcoin to travel that far, likely by the end of next year? So this will be quite an interesting video. All right, guys, join me. All right, guys, welcome back. So we have a very special guest with us, Alexandra Overgaag of Thrilled Labs. Before I introduce you to Alexandra, just a quick recap what I've been saying about Bitcoin. As you probably remember from my previous videos, I've been mentioning that Bitcoin has been likely forming an ABC correction. In other words, the drop that we saw coming back in March was likely an ABC correction. In other words, a long ABC pattern, which we mentioned in a previous video. I'll put a quick clip for you guys so you can see it.
To me, this is a structural corrective pattern. The higher probability for me is this is an ABC correction. A wave, B wave, and probably a C wave. We'll have to wait for confirmation.
All right, guys. So far, so good. Bitcoin has managed to essentially break out of resistance. The resistance was about 65, 67K. So let's see what happens. As long as Bitcoin can stay above key support levels, like, for example, the May lows, for now, bulls have control. All right, guys. But I'm sure what you're really interested in is the question I want to ask Alexandra Overgaag here, which is how likely is it for Bitcoin to travel and go all the way to 600K by the end of next year in 2025, as predicted by the crypto analyst Plan B? All right, Alexandra, how are you? You well?
Yes, Alessio, I'm doing very, very fine. Thanks for asking. How about you? Did you just get back from an interesting trip, if I have heard that correctly?
Well, thanks for asking, Alexandra. Yeah, I got back from a trip, as our viewers know, from Iran. It was good. I had a chance to meet up with some friends in Tehran and Iran. It was good times. Alexandra, you're actually from Netherlands originally, isn't that correct? You're from the Netherlands, but you're living in Italy. Am I right?
Yes, that is correct, Alessio. I've been in Italy since about 8-9 years now already. Living here basically very, very nicely in the Tuscan hills.
My Italian is non molto bene. And Alexandra, hai molto da fare oggi.
Yes, I'm extremely actually busy. Yes, as a founder, you're always busy. Yes, your Italian is perfect. Well done.
Okay, Alexandra, let's dig into the actual substance of this particular video, which I think people really want to hear about, which is the crypto analyst Plan B, who, by the way, is a really smart person. I think he's a quite intelligent person. I don't agree with everything he says, but according to a methodology that he follows, I think it's called the stock to flow model. He mentioned in a video about some weeks ago, about a month or so ago, that he was calling for a target of 600K, about 600K or 700K on Bitcoin, likely by the end of next year, 2025. Now, I should say that's quite a shocking forecast and prediction. I actually asked our own viewers and members. I put a poll on YouTube and asked our own viewers how many of them also thought that Bitcoin could go to 600K. Not many. As a matter of fact, most of our viewers did not think it was quite likely for Bitcoin to go to 600K by the end of next year. So they thought it was less probable, less likely. But nevertheless, of course, at one point, we'll have Plan B on our videos and hopefully ask him the same question. But what I would like to ask Alexandra is your own point of view about the potential for Bitcoin to go to 600K. Before you say anything, Alexandra, guys, if you haven't already checked it out, please do so, because Alexandra, by the way, is the founder and CEO of Thrilled Labs. So if you're a professional and if you're looking to get into Web3 as a business, then definitely check out Alexandra's business and website. I'll put the link for you guys in the description, and it's definitely worth checking out. Alexandra will tell you more about that at the end of the video. So first of all, let's dig into this call, this amazing and astonishing call by Plan B, who again, hopefully will interview him at some point in the future, but he's calling for 600K based on his stock to flow model.
I think it's inevitable that we reach 100K this year in 2024. And probably a lot higher than just that 100K. 100K, we're very close to that level now. And well, if the bull market is anything like we had seen in history, then we will have a steep increase in price from here. 100K this year. Note that this model line, the stock to flow model line, jumps in April to roughly 500,000, which is the average overnight of the average price level in this halving period. It doesn't mean that the price will jump overnight in May or April to this 500K. It usually takes a couple of months. And here too, you see the red dots. It takes a couple of months, almost a year to reach that model line. And that's what I think will happen this time around too. So the next top will not be in this year, 2024, but in next year, 2025. And that top will be, some people talk about 200,000 as the next top. You can see from this chart that would be very underwhelming. And in fact, from a stock to flow perspective, we need a top that's much higher than the average 500K. So let's say 6, 7, maybe 100K or a million to reach that average of 500K. So the top will be higher than 500K in 2025. That's what I think.
Now, let me say, I think he's a very intelligent guy. I think Plan B is a really smart guy. But I'm not a fundamentalist, so I don't follow fundamentals. I'm a technicals guy. And for me, the technicals don't suggest 600K as a target. I'm looking for something much more conservative, much more modest. I think 100K is potentially on the cards. But I would be very surprised if I saw 600K by the end of next year. However, I could be wrong. Okay, so I'm willing to say I could be wrong. And I would love to see 600K on Bitcoin. Who wouldn't? But I'm interested to see what you think, Alexandra, as someone who spends a lot of time in the crypto business and also looking into the fundamentals of Bitcoin. What do you think, Alexandra?
Now, I think that it's quite important, right, that we really step back for a second. And indeed, as you very much said, look at the fundamentals of Bitcoin. Once more, it's a completely unique asset in the space. There is nothing like Bitcoin. There's many people who of course call Bitcoin digital gold. And whilst Bitcoin is, of course, originally very much meant as a peer-to-peer payment system, right, as an alternative to financial systems out there, I think that people are very much on point that Bitcoin can be considered as a store of value. I think it's quite important to stress that I work in the crypto space, right? I've been involved with crypto since 2017. I've seen a lot of things happening, boom and bust cycles, ups and downs, FOMO, FUD, you name it. I've seen it all at this point. I think it's very important to take a step back and to really consider what Bitcoin is. I really don't want to disappoint you with a whole, fundamental look at Bitcoin, so I won't do that too extensively. But indeed, Bitcoin can be considered digital gold, right? Fundamentally, it started as a peer-to-peer payment system alternative to some of the disappointments that we have seen from the financial sector and whatnot. And today, really, Bitcoin is a unique, system where basically more and more people are getting into, not only to speculate on price, appreciation, as maybe many of us also do, but also take a step back. Think about the ETFs that have been approved by the big Wall Street money managers. They don't do that because they don't think that there isn't massive upside potentials. What I personally think is that there is quite a lot of factors in place that all together will make it likely that Plan B is on top with this analysis. Now, apart from these several factors that I will mention in just a second, and I'll be as concise as possible because indeed we don't have hours for this and there's a lot to the whole Bitcoin space. If we also look at Plan B's historical assumptions, he has been very, very, very much on point, and it wouldn't be up to me to disagree with him. I respect him too much for that. And I do think that it's important to mention that we have seen in previous bull cycles, actually Bitcoin go up tenfold. So going, let's say, from 70K today to 600K in about 18 months from now, that is not impossible. Having said that, yes, if Bitcoin would reach 600K, it basically takes out, if I'm not mistaken, the market capitalization of gold itself altogether, which would of course be a massive thing.
So a tenfold appreciation would be similar to what maybe Bitcoin went through, I presume, from 2016 to 2017 or 2015, 2017? From 2000, it went to 20,000 almost.
Yes, but we've also seen corrections, if I'm not mistaken, in the COVID time where Bitcoin basically corrected to under 10K and then, however, went up basically 1 or 2 years later all the way up to all-time highs.
Yeah, you're right. When it rallied from about 4,000 or 5,000 to eventually 50,000 within a few years. Yeah, you're right. After post-COVID. you're correct.
Yes, and I mean, I keep saying this, right? Also in our previous video, basically 2 years ago, if you look at Bitcoin on a logarithmic chart, you see these massive increases. And people say, for a purpose, if you are in doubt, always zoom out. We've seen massive increases. If you compare Bitcoin with other assets out there, including gold, including the S&P, if you look at the historical appreciations, it has been massive. So from a historical perspective, I wouldn't exclude the very factor that it can go up to 600K. Having said that, I think we should also consider, okay, we're expressing Bitcoin in fiat currency today, right? Ultimately, Bitcoin is meant as an alternative currency. Of course, you can compare it to how much it is worth in euros or dollars, but one Bitcoin will always remain one Bitcoin, and how much it is worth as expressed in a different currency very much depends on the global demand and on other factors that compare altogether and will relate to the alternative prices that we see on the market. Having said that, just a few days ago, we've seen Bitcoin Pizza Day, right? Yeah. Remember that guy who years ago bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins?
Oh, yeah.
Well, these days you can basically pay 2 Bitcoins and you have 10,000 pizzas, right? So this is maybe a bit of a childish, comparison, but it's the truth. Bitcoin has appreciated massively. Now, coming a bit more to actual factors, I think we have seen billions coming into the industry since the ETFs got approved. Let's be honest here. And I think that if all the big institutions on Wall Street are getting into Bitcoin, we can expect over the next few months and years, massive chilling of Bitcoin for various reasons, right? No one wants to lose money in here. And I think that there's ample requests from pension funds, from, other institutions out there and whatnot, not only on Wall Street, but also elsewhere in Hong Kong.
Alexandra, I'm sure there'll be people who are watching this video who will say, I mean, this is bonkers. This is crazy. This idea of Bitcoin going to 600K. I mean, we haven't even gone beyond 100K yet. I mean, that may happen at some point this year, which I think it probably will. I should say that I'm not personally of the opinion that Bitcoin is going to go to 600K, but I could be wrong. Listen, I mean, it could be the plan B, like you said, is correct. As you said, Alexandra, there could be a tenfold appreciation, which we have seen in Bitcoin in the past. But is it going to happen by next year? I could see it happening sometime maybe towards the end of this decade, towards the end of this 10-year period, but I just don't see it happening by the end of next year. So personally, I'm skeptical. Having said that, I could be wrong. Again, I think you're correct. Plan B is a quite intelligent person. He's quite smart, and he might be right. How would you answer somebody who says, no, that's a crazy idea or prediction or even assumption to think that Bitcoin is going to go to 600K?
Well, I would perhaps ask people, did you expect Bitcoin to go up from, let's say, $10 all the way to $1,000 or $2,000? Did you expect Bitcoin to go up from a couple of $1,000s all the way to 20K? I remember the 27 bull run. People were losing their minds. It all depends on your perspective and what you are expecting. I think we should also really take into account that this cycle is unique, right? We've just seen the Bitcoin halving, and we've already seen an all-time high slightly happening before the halving, which is pretty unique. The halving is, of course, very, very important for the supply of Bitcoin, right? Every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin that gets obtained by miners got cut in half. Now, this halving was, so to say, potentially less important in absolute terms, right? A couple of years ago, we've seen a halving from 25% of Bitcoin rewards to 12.5%. Now, in this last halving, we've seen halving rewards being cut in half to 3% to 1.5%. Now, why does that matter? It matters because it builds on top of consistency of indeed Bitcoin delivering a deflationary asset in the rest of the world where we've seen massive inflation. I mean, I'm sure that you're aware, you were just in Iran, right? Massive inflation. If we look at companies putting now Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and it indeed can be put on their balance sheets for current market values, that is an important thing that regulators allow for, especially in the US. More and more states accepting Bitcoin even as a legal tender, right? Hardcore people who have in Bitcoin since a long time, they won't sell if Bitcoin goes to 100K, to 200K. No, those are the people that I meet at blockchain events. And those people actually want to use Bitcoin for everything. They don't even use fiat currencies anymore, as we call them. Final thing, we see more and more retail adoption. Not only more and more people globally have Bitcoin or other currencies, but also Bitcoin is more and more used in terms of its payments layer, right? It facilitates beautiful payments all across the world without many fees, especially in terms of the Lightning Network. Now, maybe this is all too detailed and not popular enough for maybe an audience that wants to have a quick answer. But I do think if we look at massive appreciations, we have to have a little bit more of a systemic outlook on all the different factors. We cannot just say simply, no, this is bonkers and therefore it won't happen. And the very fact that many people think it's not possible, it can potentially also be a contrarian indicator. The only doubt that I have, and I do want to add this, is if we will go indeed in a big sort of microeconomic crisis or depression, given Bitcoin's up and down correlation with the stock markets and with the financial markets, especially now that Bitcoin is becoming more and more institutionalized due to the ETFs and whatnot, I am slightly worried, but also very curious about what would happen. Will Bitcoin prove itself or not? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, you make a very good point there at the very end there, Alexandra. You're right that if the economy spirals into a recession or a deep recession or depression even, then that could spell bad news, not just for the stock market, but also Bitcoin as well. And we shall see. Personally, look, your points are interesting and also important, and I think people should pay attention to them. I'm not a fundamentals person, so your points, I think your arguments coming from a fundamentals perspective, I'm more of a technicals guy, but that's okay. Listen, I like to contrast my own views with someone with your background from a fundamentals background, and I think that's good. Alexandra, tell us a bit more about how people can get on board with Thrilled. Maybe you can just explain very briefly what Thrilled is about and what kind of people this would be suitable for.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I have already been chilling my platform a little bit in the background here, much like you're doing with your books. No, fundamentally, Thrilled is a free and open access business solution for anyone who is professionally involved with crypto, with blockchain, with Web3. So you can consider founders like myself who have companies in the blockchain space. You have professional investors such as angel investors, VCs, developers, anyone who's professionally involved with the space. And why? It's very interesting to know that Bitcoin and everything, it's global, right? But to do business with one another, it's sometimes pretty tricky to find each other. So I thought, why not create a free and open access solution for that? And I would very much, welcome anyone who is professionally involved with crypto or who wants to be. If you're really looking for a job in the space, you're also very welcome to join. We don't earn from this. Again, it's free and open access. To check out Thrilled, and anyone can contact me as well if they want some advice on how to get in or whatnot. And that is it, very simply put. There's a lot more to it, but I won't bother you with that.
No, very interesting. Thanks, Alexandra. Guys, if you are professionally involved in Web3 at the moment, or if you want to consider having a job within the Web3 industry professionally, then this is the place for you. So check out Alexandra Overgaag's business, Thrilled Labs. And by the way, Alexandra, you've done a fantastic job with the app, which I mentioned in my previous video. Guys, go ahead and check it out. The link is in the description, and all the details are there on the website, on her website as well. Thanks very much, Alexandra. Cheers.